Let's break down two fundamental concepts in programming languages, syntax and semantics. These terms might sound technical, but the distinction isn't something you need to stress over. If you understand how a programming language works, you're already applying both concepts without thinking about them. That said, knowing the difference helps when discussing code behavior. Let's start with syntax. Think of it like grammar in a spoken language. It defines the legal combinations of symbols that form valid code. If you don't follow syntax rules, the compiler won't understand what you're trying to say. Syntax includes things like reserved words, tokens. Tokens are symbols, operators, and identifiers. We'll discuss each of them in detail later. And lastly, rules for how these elements should be used together. For example, in System Verilog, writing the following always, opening parenthesis, passage clock. Now, this statement is considered incomplete. Why is that? Because we're missing a closing parentheses after the clock. Without the closing parentheses, this is a syntax error. The compiler doesn't understand it because it breaks the expected format. It's expecting a closing parentheses after the clock. Okay? So this is an example of incorrect syntax. Now let's talk about semantics. Even if your code follows the rules of syntax, that doesn't mean it behaves how you expect. Semantics is all about meaning, what the code actually does. For instance, consider the statement sum equals a plus b, followed by semicolon. Syntactically, this is correct. But what does a plus b actually mean? That depends on semantics. Are a and b integers? Or are they floating points? Are they signed or unsigned? Will there be overflow? And if so, how should it be handled? Let's say a equals 5 and b equals 2, and both are integers. The operation 5 over 2 would result in 2 instead of 2.5 because integer division discards the decimal part. If you were expecting 2.5, you would have a semantic issue. The program runs, but it doesn't behave as intended. So here's the key takeaway. Syntax is about writing code correctly, following the rules of the language. Semantics is about understanding what the code actually does, the logic and behavior behind it. A program can be syntactically correct, but still wrong if the semantics don't align with what you intended. Again, don't overthink these terms. If you can write and understand working code, you're already using both syntax and semantics naturally.